When I got two abandoned and destroyed Noble project cars, I completely tore both of them apart to find all of the damage and save what I could to create the ultimate version of an already accomplished car. I started with the burned M12 and saved every usable piece. Then I cut away all of the damaged front end from the crash damaged M400 and used the front of the M12 to save the M400. After finding a custom body in the UK, I now had an idea of what I wanted the car to look like. Next, I met Eric, who is an accomplished tuner, programmer, and wiring guy. So together, we built a custom wiring harness, added a bunch of cool custom features to make this already great car even better. Let's get started with the build. In the last video, I showed you guys this, and this is what I was talking about. We are using Nissan GTR handles to add to our already cool car and make it even more streamlined and smooth. I think these handles just look really good, and I think they're gonna look really great on this car. So let me show you exactly how I'm gonna start doing this. There's a lot of work to actually modify these to make them fit, and yeah. Let's get started. If you remember in the previous episodes, one of the first things that we did was we made sure that these doors open and close nice and smoothly. And that's gonna be important when we set up this handle, because we wanna make sure that the handle is functioning properly and not having any issues when we open and close it once the car is finished, because then we'd have to modify it some more, and that would be a little bit of a pain in the butt. But one of the things I wanted to point out is the fact that this thing has this big giant piece hanging off here, and that will not fit on this car here. I'm gonna have to cut this apart and modify this, because this would actually hit the glass when the window is rolled up and down. And now the stressful part about this is that these are about $200, and it took 2 weeks to get them. So if I mess this up, that means we're buying new door handles and we're waiting another 2 weeks. And just to get these done, it's gonna take me probably 2 days, maybe 3, who knows, not sure yet, because we haven't started. But then it would be literally about a month and a half of work and waiting just to get this started. So wish me luck, let's cut the handle.
Without remorse for these expensive handles, I got right away into cutting them up into little pieces. I know this can be a little nerve-wracking, but sometimes you gotta take chances. With the biggest chunk of the handle cut off, I got out the die grinder and trimmed down a lot of the pieces that need to be smoothed out. I moved on to taking out the old door handle and cutting out the old door handle spot. This needs to be perfectly flat for this handle to sit in there.
Now I have the handle kind of just chilling in there. Remember, the mechanism behind here is pretty big, and as you can see, it's right up on the glass. So I'm gonna turn this to where think about where I'll have it. Probably right about here is what I'm thinking. That's where this is gonna sit. And if you look inside, there is very little room. It is very hard to focus, but let me see if I can get it to focus. Yeah, so let me hold the door here. And as you can see, with the handle functioning, let me rotate it back and forth. We have just enough clearance where this won't hit the glass. So with the proper mount on this, it's gonna be kind of difficult to get this thing to sit flush. I really want the outside of this edge of the handle to sit flush with the outside of the door to give it a nice, smooth, clean look. But if I put this in here, one of the things I'm noticing is there's still more handle that I can actually cut down. If I let go of there, and you can kind of see it's close, but it's still about 1/8 of an inch in. I think what I should do to make this work is cut this hole actually a lot bigger. And when I cut it bigger, I'll be able to reinforce certain portions of it, like right in this area. But for the most part, it's pretty good. It's not bad at all. If I did it like this here, you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but this is pretty close. It still has a little bit of an edge. I don't want this thing to be sunk down in the car. I want it to be perfectly flush. So maybe we trim some more of this, maybe we don't. Yeah. Custom work. You can just pull the parts off the shelf, put it on the car, and it's that easy.
Now I cut and trim even more of this handle to make it as low profile as possible. I need this thing to be able to adjust so that I can move it in and out on the door. I want this thing to sit perfectly flush. These are going to be important steps to making this thing sit flush.
Yay! We are at the point now where we need to line up our door handle. So what I've done here is I measured from the bottom here at the rocker, right at the area where the handle will be at, and I marked off 22 inches. Then I came over to here and did the exact same thing, except I only measured to 21 inches. The reason why I did that is because if you look at this car, the angle of the car slopes forward and it gets wider as it gets towards the rear. This will give that handle the perception of flowing with the rest of the body lines of the car. That is what I'm trying to achieve. Hopefully that's what we can get done. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this a little bit bigger, and then I'm gonna open it up a little bit, and yeah, we're gonna lay some fiberglass on there. Then we get to put this thing in there and mount it up permanently. Ah, so easy. It's so easy.
Now I begin to prep the door skin by beveling the edges. This is going to give me a nice clean area where I can get the new fiberglass nice and flush and fitting to the actual skin. I want it to be as close to the contour as possible so that this handle can sit as tightly as possible. I use aluminum tape on the backside of the door so that I'm able to get the contour of the outside of the door while applying my new fiberglass patch. While installing these Nissan GTR handles, it got me thinking about my next project, which brings me to today's sponsor, Car Vertical. Car Vertical has been an essential tool for me when looking for a new project, like this Nissan GTR here. You can see here they have pictures from the car crash auction website. They show things like if there's ever been theft reported, you can clearly see there's been no odometer fraud, which they track here on their site. And if you click the legal status button, you can check to see if there's any outstanding finances or any liens against the car. A quick click on a title check shows you everything you need to know. And as you can see here, this car specifically has a salvage title. Next time you're thinking about picking up a project or looking for another vehicle, or just want to check out your own vehicle, hit up Car Vertical and find out all of the history that you need to know on your next vehicle.
All right, so it's the next day. I got a ton of work done yesterday. I finally feel like we're starting to round second base. We are heading towards third, and home plate is in view, at least at this point. There's so many things on this car that are custom that gotta be made one-off. And one of those things that I want it to be one-off is the handles, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. So right now, I'm gonna take my tape. I've got my line marked here at 21 and my mark at 22, like we talked about before, with a gradual decline, kind of similar to the car's body lines. I'm gonna run this tape from that mark over here to our mark on the back. So we want a nice good tape line. Hold this straight, pull it a little tight, and on. Okay, this should be a pretty level, gradual downward mark on this car. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my template that I've made here. If you can see, it is a little smaller than the actual handle. And the reason why I did that is because when I cut this, I wanna leave as much fiberglass around the edge of this for strength. Fiberglass is going to tend to chip less. It's not going to have any chance of having any damage done to it like body filler does on edges. You never really wanna put body filler on the edge of a panel without having that edge of the panel very thin. So it's only to fix small imperfections. Now I'm gonna take my template, and I'm going to align it with my mark. And I'm gonna kind of step back and see what we got here, because I think that's what's gonna determine whether or not we make the cut. It looks good. I'm actually, all right, one try and I'm pretty well satisfied with that. Don't mind the fact that this does have a little bit of a curve to it. That's because it's attaching to the other part of the panel. What we want to look at is we want to look at right here and make sure that that is perfectly straight. So you know what, I'm gonna just double check this, because what I can do is I can take that extra piece off. I just want to double check this and make sure everything lines up. Okay, so my mark at 22, pull this guy nice and taut, and here. Okay, All right. Yeah, that looks good. I mean, it actually flows. Like, it kind of flows. It flows with it just enough. It's just enough of a gradual drop that I think that's going to match up with the body. So let's cut it. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I have to redo it? Yes, that's the worst that could happen. I don't want to redo this. All right, it's now or never.
After using my template to carefully mark where the door handle is going to go, I drill out the very ends of the door handle so that I'm able to use an air saw to cut the rest. I'm going to take this down as slowly as possible, like you see here where I use the die grinder to get as close as possible to the outside of this edge on my line. There's no way this door handle is going to go in with the glass in place, so I remove the glass as well as the crank mechanism so that I'm able to get this into place. Now I do a quick pass with the DA sander with some 80 grit to bring down the new patch panel so that it's level with the door skin, and one more quick pass with the die grinder so that we can fit this handle up.
Okay, so that didn't take that long to do, but I think I have this fit good. I am really excited to show this to you guys. This is awesome. This is freaking awesome. It's the first time I've ever done anything like this, and I am stoked with the results. Look at that. Look how good that looks. That looks amazing. Like, that looks so good. Now, the hard part. I think all this was actually pretty easy to do. It really only required me to make something that was somewhat similar to the shape of the door. The rest is going to be body worked. The door needs to be body worked anyway. There's still some imperfections and things like that that I want to take out of the door. But take a look at this. Fully functioning, clears everything. The only thing that I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to trim it down to where it's going to be a minuscule gap around everything, but that it doesn't rub at all, because I don't want to have any spots rubbing, removing paint from this or scratching the handle. But take a look at that. Like, I mean, dude, this is freaking crazy. That looks so good. All right, enough pausing for enjoyment. Back to work. Just a quick look at how much work this actually is to make a GTR handle fit in a Noble. This is what I have done to this handle. There is not very much left. As you can see, I have cut off several different tabs. I have shaved down the sides, and I still need to make mounting locations for this. If you look at the side profile here, you can see I've brought down this area all the way around, and that is so that I have adjustment. So now what I need to do is I need to do the exact same thing to this handle. But before I do that, I need to figure out how I'm gonna mount this to the car. I think what I'm gonna do is there's some spots where I can drill a hole and have a place to shim in and out and then bolt it to the car. So to get this to sit in there, I'm going to also have to drill the holes, like I said, and I'm gonna drill holes on some of these circles. Not all of them, obviously, but on some of them. And then when I mount this, I will have this piece sitting in there where I want it to be, shimmed nice and tight, and then I'll drill holes on the outside. Now, here's the reason why I'm gonna drill holes on the outside. I purposely made sure that in this area, it was somewhat flush, somewhat level. And what I mean by flush and level is, let me grab my trusty yardstick here. As you can see, when I go over the door, it's nice and level in certain areas. After I have trimmed down several amounts of fiberglass, you can see it's not bad. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do some more trimming. I'm gonna trim down specific areas where those bolts are gonna go through at, and I'm not gonna trim it all the way down, but I'm gonna leave a little bit of the back of the bolt on there when I go to set this in place, and then I'm gonna do another layer of fiberglass over those pieces. Probably just doing it over those pieces specifically, but that way when I take the handle off, all I have to do is slide the handle back out, and that should work. Now, there will be an order of operation to get this into the car. So if I take the door handle out, most likely I'm going to have to take the window out because there is very little room there. All right, let me show you how I get this done. I've already explained it. That's enough explaining. Like I always say, let's get to work.
Now with the holes drilled, I use this as a template for the door skin.
All right, so here is my concept of proof of, I guess, of something. Anyway, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this nut right here and I'm going to put this bolt through this hole, bolt it in from the backside. That's not exactly how I'm gonna make this work. What I need to do is be able to adjust the height or the depth of this handle. So what I'll do is I'll take one nut, put it on, and then the second one will be the one that holds it in place. Now when I put this handle in place and I know it's exactly where it needs to be, I will probably take a bit of blue Loctite or something like that and dab it onto this second one so it'll stay in place. Let that dry, let it set up a little bit, come back, and then when I tighten the bolt down, it will tighten and hold the handle exactly in place. Now in theory that should work, but you're probably asking yourself, how will it work if you stick the bolt through here and have a giant bolt head sticking out? And also, it's pretty close to the edge right there because there wasn't a lot of room that I had to work with when it came to this here. So this is how I'm going to do that. These are a little bit in. This area is a little bit in on both sides. It's almost flush, but I'm still going to grind this down to where it's a little bit thinner. What I'm gonna end up doing then is from the back side, I'm gonna slide this through. I'm gonna do some fiberglass repair over the bolt to hold the bolt in place. And once the bolt is held in place, it should be nice and secure in theory. Not only am I gonna do that to the front side, I'm gonna do that to the back side as well. And this should secure our handle and give us enough adjustment height-wise. I'm not quite sure yet if it's going to affect the handle the way it moves up and down. We'll see. I think if I put a washer somewhere in between those two nuts, that will hold this in place. Sweet. All right, the handle is securely in place. As you can see here, it's functioning, but you can see the bolt heads are sticking out. I have it just kind of sitting in place. It's not fit to where it's going to be, but I feel like this is a very good place to be at this point. We have made major progress in a very little amount of time. This is about 2.5 days worth of work where I have waited for the fiberglass to cure. I've cut my handles out. We've cut the handle apart, and we've also added somewhere to bolt this into place. Now, as you can see, it works pretty good. I want to do a test run though. I don't want to just set this in place and say, oh, it works, cool, check that out. You know, like I want to really see how good this works. So we should hook up something on the inside and see if this door will actually function. This is the lock mechanism rod that is in the car. It's custom made. They've made this here. It seems pretty sturdy, doesn't want to bend. That's a good thing because the way we're going to have to bend this to make this work, it's going to be hard. But it's literally that short of where it actually needs to be. I think we can reuse this. So I'm gonna go ahead and bend this up and then we're gonna put it back in the door and see what we can do. So just give it a little tweak here and there. I think I need to make this a little bit straighter. I could totally be messing this up. I also cannot get a bite on this. Oh yeah, there we go. That bent good. All right. Now let's bend this guy back out. Oh yeah. Okay, I think that's it. I think that's all I'm gonna need is just that little bit of extra space. All right, let's do this. Okay, this is the moment of truth. Obviously, it's not really fitting where it's supposed to be fitting right now, but this is gonna tell me whether or not this is even possible. So I have the latch hooked up to the handle, and I'm ready to try. I'm ready to see if this is gonna work. Okay, so door's secure, it's shut, and dude! Yes! Oh, yes! Oh my gosh. Hell yeah, dude. Okay. We know it works. We know it's going to work. Now we need to make this strong enough where we're not going to have any issues with cracking or breaking. So you can see I have ground down the head on this to make it much thinner. And the reason I've done that is so that I can grind this area here, slide this in so that it is further in, grind around this edge, and then glass over it. Once it's glassed into place, it should have enough strength to not have any issues. The thing that I'm gonna have to do though is I'm gonna have to make a decent sized square where this is a lot flatter and a lot closer. On the back side of this panel, I'll be able to do the exact same thing. I'll glass it in, sandwiching this piece in there, giving me a good bite, hopefully not causing any cracking in the future. It's gonna be thoroughly tested before I do anything, like once it's painted, obviously, there's no going back. So we gotta test all that out, but let's get started grinding this down, get these handles mounted, and then once we get the handles mounted, move on to the floors, which I'm very excited about because that's gonna be one of the steps that puts this car that much closer to taking everything apart again and sending it over to the powder coater, which we've picked our color and it's dope. It looks great.
Here I use the finger sander as well as the angle grinder. These are perfect for bringing down just enough fiberglass without going through or making it too thin. Now I use aluminum tape to glass in the bolts permanently into the door skin so that I'm able to bolt directly to the door with the handle.
All right, the bolts are in place. They are pretty much gonna be where they're gonna be. The next step now is letting that dry. But while we're letting that dry, I think it's time to start cutting the floors. And as you can see here, we have the aluminum sitting underneath, and that panel is gonna go back into the front, so I have everything I need right now. I'm just gonna trace it out on here. We're going to use a skill saw, I think it is. I don't know. It's got a carbide bit. That's all I know. And that's what you need when you're going to cut this stuff right here. So let's cut this out. Let's drill our holes and let's start fitting our carbon fiber floors.
Here I did a quick test run with the air saw, and this actually worked way better than I thought it was going to do. It didn't fray any of the edges on the carbon fiber, so I went ahead and cut every single piece with the air saw. With any small or uneven edges that I had from the air saw left behind, I used the DA and it took care of those perfectly.
Take a look at how good this carbon fiber came out. As you can tell, there is a little bit of pores in here like we talked about with Joey. That's okay. I'm going to clear coat this whole thing. And not only am I going to clear coat these panels, I am also going to wrap these with PPF so that when they're in the car and you put your feet on it and it doesn't get nice and scuffed up and damaged, but it's still visible and looks really good. I am super happy with the way that this turned out. Guys, this looks amazing. Just look at the reflection of this carbon. Can you imagine what this is gonna look like inside the car, underneath the clamshells? This is next level. This car is getting even better day by day. We have GTR door handles, a completely new AC system. We've put a mono wiper in the center that's going to literally park center. I talked to a few other people about how that thing is gonna work, and that again is another thing that's kind of crazy. Yeah, now we have carbon fiber floors that are getting cut out. This is awesome, but why stop there? we still have some more stuff that we need to add to this car. And we got some bad news last week about the car, but we got some really good news coming up soon. So that'll be something I show you guys later, but let's keep cutting these floors.
Here I use some really cool unique tools called clecos. These are actually used to hold the panels in place. So what I do is I drill a very small hole with a drill bit and then put the cleco through the carbon fiber as well as the aluminum to hold these panels together. The importance of this is so that when I drill out all of the holes, they're all in the exact same place on both pieces.
Well, everything is done. The car is up in the air. Let's fit these floors.
Noble uses rivets on their floors, and I'm going to do one better by using bolts. So here I install riv nuts so that I'm able to take this floor off and on just in case anything gets damaged and needs to be replaced.
That was awesome. I can't believe how good this looks. I'm gonna give you a close up here in a second. But this is next level. This makes the car look so much better, so much more modern, and it's getting the attention to detail that it deserves. There's a lot of guys out there who have built some really, really nice Nobles, and this is like those cars. I just want to do what I can to let everybody see how awesome these cars actually are. And if you've watched Top Gear before, you could see they loved this car just the way I love this car and other people love this car. They raved about how the performance of this car was when they drove it, and we're going to do just as much to the performance side as we are doing to the visual side on this car. But let's take a quick look at how good this actually came out. This looks amazing. Check out the carbon. It is super reflective. All of the hexagon lines are going sideways, and they continue to go sideways all the way into the car. As you can see, they all match up and look exactly the same. That is really, really cool. That's a very unique feature to this car, and I really love that. We have done so much work though this week, guys. We've redone the AC system. We redid the firewall. We've notched the firewall for the mono wiper that we have just mounted on here. We did a ton of fiberglass work. We've mounted our GTR door handle, and we got it functioning perfectly. Look at this. I mean, that is freaking awesome. The next step here is doing a little bit of body work to that and getting that straight, but I'm gonna hold off on the body work until everything is done and the car is ready to go to paint. Well, obviously before the car is ready to go to paint, but it's gonna be something that I do once everything is ready. I really wanna get the engine running first, and I think that's gonna be something that is gonna set this car apart because we have so many cool things planned for that engine. Not only do we have cool things planned for the engine, let me take you over here and show you the color we have chosen for our frame. Gold-tastic. This looks amazing. Take a look at how this looks against that carbon. That looks so good. I cannot wait to see this car completely with a gold chassis, carbon fiber floors, and I can't tell you what color I'm gonna paint it yet, but it's gonna look really good. Not only do we have carbon fiber floors, we still need to cut some holes in those floors for something very special. And that's gonna happen in the next episode. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.